rather this is what happens to the King of the Jews. This is the King of the Jews. And if we flip back in our Bibles back to 1st and 2nd Samuel, which I know every single one of us can recall immediately in our heads, every part of Scripture. But just as a refresher, 1st and 2nd Samuel, we had the introduction of Samuel the prophet, who delightful, unlucky man of getting to pick out the kings of Israel. But before that point, Samuel will have these discussions with God, and one of the things that he gets his pushback on is the people keep saying, we want a king. We want a king. And Samuel is unsure, and he has this message from God that says, well, let me tell you what happens when you have a king. You can have a king like other people, but you know they're going to lord it over you. You know that your sons are going to go and die for their wars. You know that the grain that you are working to grow, the king's going to get to reap. But if that's what you want, okay. So if you continue through 1st and 2nd Samuel, then Saul becomes king. We know that that didn't really turn out that well for Saul. It was why? And then he finds, of course, the adorable David, who, a ruddy-faced youth, the David of the fame of knocking over Goliath, David of Bathsheba fame, David. And there you have it. The King of the Jews. And this is how it ends. That's what the people want. They want a king. And we got a king. And he's nailed to a cross. He's an unusual kind of king. A strange man, indeed. Not what people were expecting and hoping for. Everybody wanted a David again. A warrior, someone who would come, who would take over, take charge, drive the Romans out. This would be good. And they've got a man hanging on a cross. Offering a kingship and a kingdom unlike any that is known upon earth. Not that long ago, and I tell this story, and I'm sure I've told it to you before, about one Sunday preaching, and we had a young man, I'm not going to tell you which church, but a young man who kept moving around through the aisles. He couldn't sit still. A wonderful, just full of energy the whole time, just couldn't sit still, almost like this, just shaking. And at the end of the service, we invited him to say, come and join us, have a little coffee, and he said, oh, thank you so much, I love this. I said, I'm sorry I couldn't sit still. It's just very hard the way you guys talk about me. I mean, like I'm a king. It's just too much. Behold, the King of the Jews. And yet, perhaps, a different way, a different type of king indeed. And certainly we have had some examples of some very troubling and disappointing kings. But this is a king who will hang on the cross, and this is a king who will serve, and this is a king who will die for you and for me. And this is a king who leads his people, if you will, as a warrior in the dark and in the darkness of this world, leading us into battle in a completely different way. not to just a glorious prosperity here, but in a kingdom that has no end. A different kind of king, a king who gets nailed to a cross. Not a strong man, not a good-looking man, not someone in fancy robes, but glorious. Glorious. And we will hear the story again as we start our year again next week, if you can believe it, to Advent. We'll hear the story of a little boy born in a manger, who will not travel all that far in his whole of his life. Who will not go off to the best and brightest of universities, but through him, all will be saved. And his